Welcome back to the channel. My name's Adrian. Today I'm going to take my review of Righteous Vow 3, The Mountain Dragon's Brood. If you're aware of this channel and you've seen me before, you will have seen that I'm a huge fan of Righteous Vow 1 and 2. 1 being probably one of my favourite first level adventures that I think especially inexperienced games masters should run, and 2, which I referred to as The Empire Strikes Back, moves it on. It's grander, it's more of a campaign setting for a slightly higher level of players and a little bit more experience of a games master too. And when Bill told me that 3 was coming out, and I sort of backed on Kickstarter, and then he went, actually I'm going to send you a copy. So I've had my copy now for about a month, and I've been playing with it with Hexcrawls, and this is grander. It is a bigger, there's a lot more to it. You've got 2 unique kingdoms running alongside each other, one of dwarfs, one of humans, both being attacked by sometimes the same, sometimes other adversaries, and it takes everything and builds it. So I'm going to just put it out there. Is this going to be the Return of the Jedi? Is this, not that these are effectively a trilogy, 1, 2 or 3, they can be played in separate worlds. They feel like they're part of the same world, and I think that's probably because of Bill's the artist that he used, so they all look very similar. But I generally think you could build all 3 of these as part of a world, or if you wanted to just take it and insert it anywhere in your existing adventures, it's easy enough to do that. All you're going to need is a coastline building into a city, sort of city areas with mountains, lakes in the middle, and forests, and you're going to be able to run this Righteous Vow 3 anywhere. So bear that in mind. Is this the Return of the Jedi? Is this closing down the 3rd one and keeping it all happy? Because to me, they're the best. And I did, go, was it going to be Empire Strikes Back or Highlander 2? And I think Highlander 3 was better than Highlander 2. So everything's better than Highlander 2. Video for another day, maybe. Right, as I'm going to start off with this, one thing I can't do is I don't know whether late pledges are still available because Kickstarter's down. Time of recording, I can't actually log into Kickstarter, which is really, really weird. So I'm just going to show you, it will be available, the physical copies, you'll be able to buy them from Bill's website direct, which I'll link to in the video description. But if you want just the PDF and you want to support the channel, like I always do with all these, I'm just going to put my affiliate link up there. For complete honesty, I say I haven't paid for this. Bill did send me the PDF. He is sending me physical copies, which is incredibly nice. So I'm actually looking forward to those. And I think they're just in transport from America somewhere, because all pledges for the Kickstarters are slowly being fulfilled. But here we've got the Drive-Thru RPG page. So it's PDF only, print on demand will be coming. It's published by Crawl Club Publishing, and written. Pretty much everything is done by Bill himself. It's 176 pages. So it's completely separate adventure, but this is a sprawling sandbox. It is. There's a lot to it. It's going to include 13 different map files. So I've got 27 different maps, and the maps are black and white, colour, and player facing as well. So those are very nice and quick and simple to throw into your VTT. And you've got a huge hex map here with 2 different kingdoms and all the rumours and encounters, new monsters in here, new magic items, including armour, magical equipment. It's a adventure for 5th to 9th level, featuring 13 different locations. And then we've got a fantastic art by Andrew Beckwith, I think, Dwayne Rogers, Mazrak, Matt Morrow, and Uriah Groves. And I apologise if I've mispronounced your names, because I don't normally do names for that exact reason. Right, I think, well, let's just jump straight into the book, because there's a lot to discuss and a lot to get through. Front covers on all of these are absolutely amazing. I'm not sure whether this is Matt Morrow's work or not, because it looks similar, but I try not to because it doesn't say anywhere. But here we go, Righteous Vow. It follows the same art and style of the first 2, but we will see these 3 heroes here throughout the whole of the book, okay? And as you can see, the ominous threat here of a dragon, hence the reason, the title. So layout, design, and writing is Bill Harvett. The artists, I said, we've already discussed. Cartography, Bill Harvett and Dwayne Rogers. Then we've got a variety of editors and playtesters, etc. in here. And I probably should have said, You probably were aware of this. This is for Shadowdark, and obviously if it's for Shadowdark, you can pretty much run it through most other sort of D20, those 6 attribute kind systems. So let's just get into the map. And one thing I'm going to talk about quickly is the fact we have got 3 different starting points, which is pretty cool, because we've got 2 distinct kingdoms here. We've got the Kingdom of Doxa, which is to the east, which is the human kingdom, which is pretty much based just outside this forest. And then to the west, we've got the Dwarven Kingdom of Myth here. Human kingdom is in the capital here. It's in the middle, which is in H7, and the Dwarf Kingdom, capital here, is in A8. But the street, it gives you 3 different starting places to come on, and depending on where they start will determine really the kingdom that they're probably going to interact with. A couple of other things on the map. We've got 3 different teleportation stones. They will be important earlier. We've got a coast down to the south, which will say any sort of coastal place you can put in. And what we've got is some villages and towns towards the south. And let's just talk about the threats then, I think, is a good time. So human and dwarven kingdoms get on. They've been allies for a long time. In the north here, we have got Northold, which is the human kingdom. It's the place where there's lots of knights and things like that in this, and there's a lot of paladins. And then we've got the West Point Tower. So both of these are being attacked by orcs. So orcs are descending in from their east, okay? They're also coming from the south, from the coast. They've taken over, it's Torbal, I think it's Torbinhall, I think it's pronounced, and they've taken over some of the towns and some of the ports. They've also aligned with the trolls. Now, the other threat that the dwarves are getting underneath their cities is they've dug too deep, or the Duergar have dug shallow enough. So the Duergar are actually coming up and fighting against the dwarfs. The dwarfs have got 2 different threats, and then standard, the humans have got 1. But then there is the land of the dragon cult. So many years ago, a dragon called Gausst, I think, again, probably pronounced, flew down from the south with flew down from the north with its eggs, set up in this castle here, high up on the mountains. And obviously, as people do, they start following the dragons. So there is the land of the dragon cult down here in the southeast. Okay, now they are threatening everything. Now, as the time when the players come on, the dragons and the orcs and stuff there will be some of the towns and villages that will be taken over. I think that's probably enough of the plot for now. So going forward, there will be spoilers, because I think, having sort of played through this, I need to talk about some of the good things and some of the issues I've got from a spoiler point of view. So if you want to play this and all of that sounds good, stop the video now. Send the link to your games master and play it. Obviously, if you're a player and you've never ran something before, and I'm going to put this out there, and no, this probably isn't for you either. I think this, I'm going to say it right off the bat, this is going to be more for an experienced games master. I don't think a very experienced games master go and run Righteous Vow 1, then 2, then come and run this, okay? Because there's a lot more going on in this one, which is it's such a good thing that there's so much going on. But I think if you're a little bit experienced, you might struggle. So we've got some rumours here, D6 of rumours that are just going to sort of lead into the plot. And we've kind of talked about it already and stuff that's going on. The main one here is 5. So the mysterious stone formations throughout the land are rumours to be portals unlocked by a magic ring. So you can sort of tease that on, because that will become important as the adventure goes on. Counter table, we're running on a D8, technically becomes a D6 after the first roll. So each encounter, after its roll, after you've done the first one, you're going to take 2 off the roll. So eventually, you're always going to be rolling a 1. So 1, 2, or 3 is then going to give us the dragon flying overhead, which I think you'll appreciate from a player's point of view is probably quite worrying. If they see this magic, this massive red dragon flying overhead, they were seeing some of the damage as they go around. So it's going to take the sort of players on to go and discover, hopefully, what is going on. So we'll then go through the contents. This is going to give us the Hexcrawl map, rumours and encounters, mountain and fire, and then the contents. I say we've kind of covered the mountain and fire, which covers the background of the dragon. Oh, one thing to do say, he did have, there was 9 originally, and there are now 4 surviving dragons. Okay, only 1 is settled here. But that's enough for now. We're then going to get the Kingdom of the Hex Key. We then get a load of monsters, magic items, NPCs and mercs, and there's quite a lot in here. Give us some generic sort of town and village. It gives us sort of like inns and taverns and shops and stuff. So it actually really builds the world out. We've got 14 really good pages of world building. And then we're going to get into the exact locations, from the Scorched Tower to some of the castles and the cathedrals and stuff. And once we get into the back of the book, I'm not going to spend too long over there. As I say, as much as I don't mind spoiling aspects of the adventure, because it is a sandbox adventure after all, what I don't want to do is specifically talk through the maps too much, because that's where the real fun is going to start to take place. As we get into the main introduction, so we've got a couple of main NPCs that we're going to keep an eye on. So we've got King Leonidas, who is the king of the humans, and then King Dolron, who is the king of the dwarfs. Okay, so those are just your main NPCs that will sort of, well, one of them will go on for quite a while. And, well, again, depends on really where the players take it. The campaign is divided into 3 acts. So we've got Arrival, Kingdoms in Turmoil, and then Dragon Slayers. See where we're going with that. I say the Arrival is going to give you 3 different locations to come in, and depending on where they arrive will determine really the first kind of interactions they're going to have. So whether they come in down the human side or the dwarf side, and if they come down the human side, and by the time they then get to the capital, because, you know, as the games master, you're going to describe the capitals for both. You know, they are going to be grand places. And, you know, adventurers normally end up towards capital. And depending if they go down the human side, they will be sent to Northold to go and get the prince's brother to try and help there. They'll then discover a orc threat that's going on. With the dwarfs then will send them up north to go to the West Point Tower. Again, that's actually a slightly different one, because you've got the orcs hold up after it's been attacked by the dragon. So you're then going to start sort of seeing this world. But each of the towns and the locations that the player's going to go to are incredibly well written. And there's lots of NPCs in there, which, say, this is what I'm saying about inexperienced games masters. It might start to just blow your mind, the amount of names that you're going to keep an eye on. But it's going to give you also subquests. This feels very much like my experiences of Warcraft. You know, when you first ended up, I'm saying this like everyone else that's watching this has played this, but you'd go to an area and you'd have the main theme across, which is your 3 acts. Could also say things like Skyrim and stuff, but there are multiple side quests to go and do things and discover. It feels like a massive, I'd say it's an epic build, what Bill's done here, but it really feels alive, because you're interacting with new NPCs all the time. They're going to just, you know, give you all these side quests. So eventually, the players then will maybe come back to the main cities, depending on which one that they go to. Because one thing I found when playing this is I couldn't do all. Because if you go down the dwarf quests, you really haven't got time to do the human quests and vice versa. I think you could allow players to do that, but you're going to slow down the pace. It's use it as replay it with a different group is my advice if you're going to do it that way. Because as you get into Act 2, the king, the human king, is going to ask the players to go on a quest. They're going to go with his daughter to go and find a magical ring that's going to allow them to teleport into the Dragonlands to go and then sneak in and slay the dragon. From the dwarf's point of view, the dwarf capital has been attacked, and the king is, well, we're going to go with it, mortally wounded. But the prince and princess have been kidnapped, so you need to go and rescue the prince and princess. And then as we get into the 3rd act, the players will then either go off and kill the dragon, depending on which side they've gone down, and whether they've rescued the prince and the princess for the dwarfs will determine really what the dragon cult actually ends up doing. And all the while this is going on, you've still got the Duergar and the orcs, with the help of the trolls, fighting and trying to take over the land of the dwarfs. And you've still got the orcs and the cult still fighting the humans. So there's so much going on. It's just a big sort of battle fest in a really good way. We're then going to get into the key of the Hex Kingdom. So we've got, I think it's about 35, 40 different unique locations. And some of them are like little villages and towns, and others are big towns that have been taken over. So we've got like Torben here, which is, it used to be the capital of, well, it's the capital of Torben Hall, which was the area to the south coast. So that's been completely taken over. At some stage, the players may be asked to go and clear it out. And they need to go and clear out the cathedral, which is what we did. If you are subscribed to Dungeons and Dyslexia Tabletop Tales, Bill actually ran this part of the adventure on the channel. So I'll link that in the video description so you can go and watch how successful we were. Just ish. But yeah, so we've got all these different locations. I say we've got 3 different standing transport stones in here as well. Then to the north, we've got like Nort here, and we've got some ruins that will become important because this is the fabled Rings of Traveller are in the ruins. Keep that in mind because I've got a little bit of a grumble when it comes to that adventure. Northeast Shore, so a variety of other stuff. We then get into the monsters, and say this is going to be very spoily because we've got Gausst here, which is the Scourge of the Mountain, which is your red dragon, which is pretty meaty. And then this will be a big spoiler, we've got his brood, or her brood we could go with, which are young dragons the size of horses, and you're going to discover those later on in the adventure. Hexcrawl, who is the head of the Knights of Brood, so he's your Kylo Ren, I guess. Sort of, yeah, and he's a pretty tough dude. He's going to be around. And then we got the Knights of Ren, I mean, the Brotherhood, the Knights of the Brood, which there's going to be a lot of. We've got Brood Cultists and Zealot Priests in here. We've got all the Duragars, which is going to go from the Mountain Duragar Assassins, which talks about, the Assassins just popping out at really inopportune moments to attack the players. And then finally the Duragar King. We've got some Orc Warlord, Shaman, Berserker. These Gorbol Trolls, which have got a hole in the top of the head because they like to sort of hide underwater and just breathe to wait to catch it, because you can see by its aquatic feet and hands. We're then going to get some not too bad sort of mithril dwarfs here and storm speakers. The paladins of the human paladins and the Vow Knights that are waiting to become a paladin. So that is a lot of the monsters. We've still got a load of NPCs to come up yet, but we're then going to get into the magic items. So like the Ring of the Drake was going to make you immune to cold damage, Dragon Amulet. Well, Bill did this in his other ones, and it's a lot of weapons in here have got curses, which is cool. So we've got like the Sword of the Lion, which doesn't, but I'm going to show you it's where are we? It's the Orc. Here you go. Orcscalibur. The Sword of Obsidian and Darkened Steel. The power of evil sword is deceiving. So it's +2 scimitar. I like the fact there's art with it as well. I do like the sort of armory, sort of when you look at magic tables and things like that. I kind of want to see what they look like. So fair play to Bill and the artists for actually do this. But it's +2 scimitar, which is really good. However, if the wield of the sword caves blood, the sword itself craves blood when enemies are near a DC 15 int check or charge towards the nearest opponent. Like curses like that, it's really good. And twice a day you may make an attack with an advantage. And so there's different magical items. There's a lot of weapons in here, but we do get this Ring of the Traveller in here, and it does actually sort of imply there are other rings. We're going to get into the NPCs now. I'm a big fan of telling me what to do with NPCs. Now, again, I don't want to really spoil the NPCs, but we've got Prince Godfrey, which is the commander of Northhold, and a lot of the NPCs are just going to have this, named Blade, which means, from a replayability, if you want to give them whichever one of the named blades, you can, and then just leave the players out. I kind of like the idea of them actually having their own blades already, but we're going to have, so King Leonidas, it's not a big grumble, but I was just like, oh, I wonder whose sword is whose, and it's up to you as the games master to decide. So we've got the princess as well, who's the commander of the Mithril Lance. I think it's Kierlin, I don't know, again, probably pronounced wrong. And then we've got Sarah, the knight of the Mithril Lance, which is the trusted advisor to the princess. Got the king and then his son and daughter in here. Daughter with a beard, dwarven beards. And then we've got some sort of generals and captains here, and then one of the wise here. Variety of mercenaries that the players are going to feel. And this is going to feel that, okay, I know I've gone through this a little bit, but you're going to be like, hold on, there's a fair few NPCs in here. But don't worry, it does build them in slowly. But also, like I said, depending on the route that the players go down, will determine whether or not you're going to interact with them at all. Because realistically, the players haven't got time to do all. You're kind of only really going to be running half the Hexcrawl map. Unless the players completely rebel and go, actually, we're going to go off in, instead of following the sort of predetermined quest lines that are in here. And then we're going to get into, so from here on in, it's the maps, and it's going to talk about the villages and the towns, the different inns and shops. It does say Mountain Dragon's Brood, adventure for level 5 to 8. Drive-through RPG says to 9. Just, little things I notice as I'm going through. But towns and villages, so this is going to give us sort of 14 pages of world building. So we have got some additional counter tables. So if you are within 6 miles of towns and happen to be doing it at night, there is a potential for different encounters. So again, running off a D6, but it's because the orcs are going to be attacking. But the rest of this is just going to help with things like the inn. So it's going to explain how the inns work. It also separates out in there the differences between the dwarven and the human inns, and different mercenaries that are around, market and all the prices and things for the items that you can have, the different types of temples, and some of the temples you can actually go and buy new spells. So we've got commune, prophecy and regeneration available to be bought, obviously if you are a priest of the right level. New weapons in here, and you can fix weapons as you go. So we've got some mithril axe and mithril darts. Again, possibly should have mentioned it, but it's the dwarves are mining a incredibly strong, it talks about an incredibly strong and light metal. As you can see, it's mithril. Alchemists, and we've got stables and prices for stables and buying everything, even, and then, if you want to go and get a warhog for your dwarfs, which is absolutely cool. Breweries in here, jewelers as well, and then it summarizes just all the villages and towns and gives you a notable detail. Games Master, print this page. This is going to be really important. It gives you the locations, an idea of what is also in the town, so whether it's got a brewery, jewelers, and things like that as well. And the rest of the book now is adventures, which I say I don't really want to spoil too much, because adventures are the kind of the bread and butter of where they go. And say this is the sort of first place they're going to go if they went down the dwarven route. So they're going to get this scorched tower. Say it's been full of orcs. They're howled up in there. That have been recently attacked by the dragon. Then we've got sort of the castle here, which is the dwarven castle, which by the time it gets to the second act, it will have been slayed, depending on whether they get. Again, it's going to depend where the players go, what they're going to see. Cathedral down south, which, go and watch that. This was good fun, where it's been overrun by the orcs and trolls, and here's the map. And it's, no, I kind of don't want to say it, but go and watch it, because it's quite nice actually seeing the map once you've finished. And we're going to say we've got another village in here down by the docks. Northold, which is the city right up north, where Prince Godfrey is, which is being attacked by dwarfs. So that's got its own encounter table in there as well, and you're going to kind of want to recruit him. But here's a little bit of intimidation to give you an idea of what's in here, if you can try and get the army out. We've got all the knights and names for the knights, then how many lieutenants we've got, paladins and things like that. There's several thousand people totally in Northold, so it is a big pack thing. And can you get them back to go and help the king in his time of need? But probably should have mentioned the ballistas. You're going to want to play with ballistas if you sort of have the orcs attack. Then we've got Haverson Mill, which may or may not, it does have a werewolf in, which the players hopefully will rescue from the jail, and then it travels with the party and tries to infect them. Try and encourage them to go to that village and just take the guy out of the jail, because obviously he's innocent. Wink. And then we've got the capital of the humans, which is the Castle Toon, which again, I probably should have said this on the other capital. It has got an awful lot of adventures and like specific king's quests. Now here's the bit that, remember I was saying about the rings and going and finding them. This is something I found quite strange when I was running this. Obviously, you can, at some stage, they're going to sit down and talk to the king, and he's going to send them off on a quest with his daughter to go and get a ring. It just says the Northeast on a mission. The thing is, though, if you've read all the Hexcrawl stuff, you're aware of where the rings are. I think it would have just made a little bit more sense. I've read this several times, and I'm making sure I'm not. It's, you know, if there's a magical ring to go and find, let the king know exactly where it is they've got to go. Okay, because if you don't, you kind of don't know where you're going. And if they don't go on that quest, it does say if they choose to do another quest and leave it, and then the princess is going to be basically found in the Nord ruins trying to find the rings at a later date if they go there at a later date. So it's got this, say, live living world that's going on, that the players will discover things or not discover things depending on what actually happens. And then we've got the Yeoman docks, so we've got this second docks in here. The Nord ruins, so this is where they're going to find the ring to help to teleport. And this is a multi-level. It's quite a vast dungeon because it's got a couple of levels in there. So you've got the surface, which is only sort of 3 locations. But then once they get down underneath, this feels quite hard. You know, when you're sort of reading the stats and the creatures that are in here, I think you're gonna want a few players in here, and then they might need to sort of come back out, clear the top, and take a rest when they do that. But so we've got the first level in here, then they're going to go down again into the second level, and then finally they might find the vampire that runs it all. There is a central village, which is you know, as you imagine, in the middle, with the Temple of the Lion Father, which is somewhere that the player's probably going to want to make sure is protected at some stage, just because of that, you say it's the main temple there. And then finally, we have got Halvut, I think that's pronounced, which is where Hexcrawl and Gausst reside, we should say. And this is I think it's 23-part dungeon in here, which they're going to sort of go round and hopefully, so it's in the middle here, we've got the dragon in the middle. We've got a couple of gods in here, so we've got the Lion Father of Doxum and the Cult of the Brood. And then finally, not going to show that, the end of the adventure. So what sort of happens depending on players' reaction, how they, you know, well, ultimately one of them is, it's not going to be too spoilery, is if they decide to kill the dragon. And then finally, we've got a really good map here of the Dwarven City again. And then here's Ghost itself. Okay, so let's just jump back to me and I'll give you my final thoughts on Righteous Vow 3. So, is this Return of the Jedi? And I'm just going to call it and go yes. Because, and I don't know, I don't know if you're with me, A New Hope, groundbreaking, okay? Which the first one is, it's absolutely brilliant. Return of the Empire Strikes Back then makes it better. And Return of the Jedi is a great movie, but it's not quite as good as the first two. And let me explain why. And now I'm not saying it's not a great adventure, but as I was running things, I just found a few things that I think possibly personal preference weren't the things that I enjoy. Okay, and I've already talked about one, that quest ring, which is, you know, it's only a minor thing. But I kind of, you know, if you're buying a pre-written adventure, just make it a little bit easier for the players. Just fully explain what's going on. Now, the grumble, the first I have, the proper one, is the encounter table, which I found quite restrictive. Let's go with that, because it's a D8 in essence, and once you've rolled it once, it becomes a D6 technically, because it's a D8 minus 2. Which actually, you know, so once you get to that one, the dragon flies over. Now, once the dragon flies over the first time, it's quite intimidating. And once it flies over the second time, and when I actually ended up getting the dragon flying over 2 hexes in a row, which felt, it's not likely it's going to happen, because, you know, the chances of random encounters happening are quite slim. But it does happen. I would have loved to have seen more random encounter tables, specifically ones for dwarfs, especially ones for the humans. It would have just made things a little bit easier. But also, as the campaign goes on and the dragon is wounded, because I said there are going to be spoilers in here, it's resting up. So why would it be flying over when it's resting up? Also, as you go into the third act, as the players, if you go down the human side and you want to go and attack the dragon, and you've done all the stuff. You've gone and got the ring. You've snuck in behind enemy lines. You've teleported, and then suddenly you see the dragon flying overhead. You're like, oh, we're probably too late. So I kind of think encounter tables should either be different or change as the acts go on. Which brings me on to problem the second, which is time frame and timeline. I think this, I'd say, as wonderful as it is, with so much that's going on, I think when I was running it, I was like, what I really need is an idea of how many days I've got till all the dragons go and do what they go and do. Because once you head into the third act, and as a games master, you don't know when to move people from the second to the third act. First to second's a little bit more obvious. The third one isn't quite as obvious, because again, depends on what the players decide to do. But you kind of want to be able to push it constantly. And when you get into third act, depending whether they've tried to rescue the prince and princess, the dwarven one, or they've actually, helped with the humans, will determine when the dragon and what the dragon does. So if you're then saying you're going to go and kill the dragon, there's a chance they're going to be actually already left by the time they got there, which could lead to a kind of epic well, it's going to make the players hate you. If they've gone and got the magical ring to go and come down, and they get there and the dragon's already gone, and then by the time they get to the city, they flatten the city. Okay, that's quite an epic way of doing it. But I kind of think it just needs a time frame. What's going on now? The problem, the fourth, is, and I'm hoping Bill rectifies this one, is in Act 2, when the dwarven capital gets flattened. The king gets mortally wounded, and his 2 children get kidnapped and taken off to Nazulgrath, which is where the Duergar live. And as you've seen in the whole of this book, there's no map of it. And it says in there that, there's no cartographer's gone there, so there's never been a map. However, this is a big part of Act 2 if you're fighting on behalf of the dwarfs. And as a games master, you've then got to go and create a whole map area of where the prince and princess are being held. And how long do you do that for? I'm hoping, Bill, if you're watching, I know you're going to be watching this. I'd really love you to just follow it up with one of your amazing maps and just add it on for free. So as a games master, you've got that tool there, because So I went down the dwarf route when I was playing this, and I was like, okay, now I've got to go and rescue them. I was flicking through, and I've got to go and create a whole dungeon and potential capital and stuff for the Duergar, and just kind of wanted a bit of guidance on it. That's really it. And my problem, the last, is, and this is a me problem, and there's a fair few of the quests. So, for example, when they're going off and going to get the ring, they're taking the princess with them. Personally, I hate having NPCs that are combatant in encounters, because for me it takes away playing agency, and it's something else for me to have to keep track of as a games master. I ran Storm King's Thunder, the 5th edition, and there's a huge chunk of that where they're travelling around with a giant that pretty much helps them in every fight. And when they get to the end, spoiler, sorry about this, you kind of need the drag. You need the giant because the end fight is just really, really hard. And I don't like it. I want my players to be front and center and the most important thing in every combat, every adventure and stuff, because it's their story. Yes, I'm writing the world and stuff, but also I've got too much to keep a track of. I know it's slightly, easier with Shadowdark because smaller stat blocks and stuff, but to try and keep encounters interesting, I want to just focus on my bad guys and what's going on, try and be the most effective games master, trying to kill my players to make it seem realistic. What I don't want to be doing is having that weird meta game where I've got someone that knows what I know when I'm running the NPCs to try and kill them because they know what's going on, because it's my brain that's doing it. But also I don't want to go, here you go, here's 2 NPCs, you go and run them during the combat because I've made you encounter them. So other than those, I think it's brilliant. And I say that is why I think it does make that weird Return of the Jedi analogy. And because Return of the Jedi, like Righteous Vow, is an absolutely amazing film. It's just the fact that it followed two even better films or two even better adventures. And I'm not saying that this is not utterly amazing. There's just a few things in it that I overly didn't like. And again, I think using the Return of the Jedi analogy, it very much feels like that, because you're either fighting at the Death Star or fighting on Endor, or if you want to go down and just to do the dragon, and you can do that, that's like fighting on the Death Star. Because there are so many other grand battles and stuff that are going on as it's all being attacked and stuff. And I say like Northold, where when that gets attacked and you actually get to fight with the ballistas and stuff, it's great fun. The story building, the world building that Bill has got in here is utterly amazing. Now, I'm just probably being a little bit pedantic, because when I read a lot of adventures and I'm playing and stuff, I'm like, I homebrew nearly every adventure that I have. So I think it's rare for me to pick up an adventure and just go with it. But yeah, I definitely think more encounter tables, and I'd love to see a map of Nazilgrath. But other than that, go and pick this up. It's a really, really good adventure. So you can put it wherever you want. You can insert it into any other world and kingdom you've got. And even if you're not interested in the dwarfs and stuff, or the humans, and you want to make them your own races, you can. I'd probably stick with the dwarfs, though, because that whole dwarf Duragar, above, below ground thing is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to end it there, and I'm going to go with, these are still 3 of the best books, zines, that I've read and played. And Bill is just knocking out the park. His next one coming up, slight spoiler, is going to be on pirates. And that should be good. It's good. I'd say I talk about pirates a lot. I always say I don't really like pirates, but then every time I get a pirate adventure, I want to talk about it and play it quite a lot. And I think it's because I didn't like Pirates of the Caribbean. That's just me. I like the first one, but beyond there. So I'm going to leave it there. If you do want to pick up this, I'll put a link to Bill's website direct, so you can get like the really nice hardback copies of it. Print on demand will be coming on TTRPG. Once it is, I'll update my socials to say if you're going to grab it, just PDF only, please do consider using my link, because anything generated on the channel I will put back in to buy more things to review. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you've ran Storm King Thunder, just actually let me know down in the comments below. Did you find the same thing with the lack of player agency in that campaign setting? And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.